And a very happy Jimmy Buffett Friday to you at 12:08 in the West. Talk Radio 790 KABC, the John Phillips Show, broadcasting live from the Morongo Casino Resort and Spa Living Room Studios. Mr. Randy Wangs at the sports desk in Culver City.
John, this morning, President Joe Biden announced a better-than-expected jobs report where he said that House Republicans need to get on board with Bidenomics because their way is not going to work.
Quite frankly, I'm sick and tired of Republicans in the House saying they want to cut the deficit when all they really want to do is once again cut taxes for the very wealthy and big corporations.
Okay. Can we listen to Joe Biden one more time with an assist from Holly Mitchell at the beginning?
Okay, we can do that. Hold on one second.
Quite frankly, I'm sick and tired.
Okay, ready?
Ready.
Okay, tag team.
Quite frankly,
I'm sick and tired of Republicans in the House saying they want to cut the deficit when all they really want to do is once again cut taxes for the very wealthy and big corporations.
Now, how about a tag team from Fran Drescher?
Okay, I think we can do that. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
I cannot believe it, quite frankly.
I'm sick and tired of Republicans in the House saying they want to cut the deficit when all they really want to do is once again cut taxes for the very wealthy and big corporations.
Joe always sounds like he's getting ready to fall asleep now.
Oh, yeah. And this was early in the morning.
Quite frankly,
maybe what he needs to do to give himself a little more energy during the speeches is to get a little assistance every time he says, quite frankly.
Quite frankly.
That would really lighten the load because he says it quite a bit.
That he does.
And then we went to sleep.
800-222-KABC is the telephone number, 1-800-222-5222. It's been a very busy news week, particularly in the world of politics. So much went on this week, whether it's Dianne Feinstein dying at the end of last week and Gavin Newsom appointing LaFonza Butler to be the U.S. Senator on Sunday night, whether it was the House Republicans joining with Democrats to kick Kevin McCarthy out of the Speaker's chair. You name it. This has been a weather whiplash of news all week long.
Weather whiplash.
And one of the claims that was made by allies of Kevin McCarthy after he was removed from office, it was a combination of all the Democrats and a handful of Republicans led by Matt Gaetz, was that Nancy Pelosi double-crossed him, that he had a secret deal with her to protect the institution, to protect the speakership, that would allow him to stay in office by having a handful of Democrats provide votes for Kevin McCarthy to prevent Matt Gaetz's coup from happening.
My question, if that was really what happened and that really was a deal he had with Nancy Pelosi, why wouldn't he have waited until Pelosi was back in D.C. to put the vote on the floor? Because she was out of town for this entire thing.
I think you only have 48 hours. And it's not like you have any control over whether or not Dianne Feinstein dies. I mean, it's not like he killed her. So Nancy Pelosi was gone. Who knows how she would have voted had she been in Washington, D.C., but she didn't pick up the phone and call any Democrats and say, hey, switch your votes and vote for McCarthy to honor a deal I made with him. So she is now here in Los Angeles being honored by L.A. Mayor Karen Bass. They both appeared in an event last night that had John Legend providing the entertainment. And Nancy Pelosi also agreed to a sit-down with Fox 11's Alex Michelson, who will be on this show at 2 p.m. And, Randy, the topic of Kevin McCarthy came up.
That's right. Let's hear straight from the San Fran mam's mouth about this deal with McCarthy.
Obviously, this has been an extraordinary week in politics. Kevin McCarthy says that you essentially broke a promise to him to keep Democrats with him if there was a vote against him. Is that not true? Talk to us about what happened with him.
No, I have no promise to him. Our Democratic members made their decision. They made a decision that, first of all, let's just say how this works.
Yeah.
Each party elects its speaker. You win the majority, you nominate the speaker, and you, from your party, elect the speaker. In all the years I've been there, 36 years, I remember one person crossing over to vote for the other party, and then he changed parties right at the same time. But it doesn't happen. So I don't think he could possibly have said that. He may have said he was disappointed that he lost. He thought there could be some...
No, he said you double-crossed him. Whether that's true or not, I'm not sure.
By the way, I believe it's entirely true that she double-crossed him.
I don't think he could possibly have said that. He may have said he was disappointed that he lost. He thought...
Maybe she said it sarcastically and he didn't pick up on it. Oh, sure. Sure, we'll back you up.
Or maybe with the dentures, you can't tell what the hell she's saying.
He thought there could be some protection of the institution.
Yeah.
But our members were very concerned about January 6th because he said the president was responsible and then he went and kissed his ring. They were concerned about agreeing to a debt ceiling agreement on which we would then proceed with our appropriations, and he walked away from that. They were concerned about the impeachment of the president. There was no respect for the institution. In other words, and my thing was always the integrity of the institution is something that's very important to me. But if you don't respect the institution, then don't expect us to bail you out.
So the way I read it, her take is you made your bed, now sleep in it.
Pretty much.
You had a narrow majority. They demanded a pound of flesh for you to get the speaker's gavel. You gave it to them, and then they used all of your concessions to take you out of office.
It's the only way he was ever going to get in there.
Yes, that's true. That being said, I still think she double-crossed him.
What do you make of his move to move?
I think, considering how terrible he is at counting votes, he made assumptions that weren't there.
Maybe that's true.
What do you make of his move to move you out of your office? Essentially, the first thing that happens,
well,
they
I don't
move
know
you
if
out of
he
your
did
office.
or the new whoever did it. That's so incidental. I'm more concerned about the fact that they're trying to cut 30% out of our food for children and women, infant children. I'm more concerned they want to take 70 to 80% out of what we're doing for LIHEAP, low-income energy for mostly low-income seniors. That's what I'm concerned about. The office means nothing to me.
How would you real succinctly describe Kevin McCarthy's legacy as Speaker?
The incredibly shrinking speakership.
Well, she's not wrong on that point. Again, if you give a handful of your members the power to kick you out at any moment in time, the speaker is not as powerful as the speaker used to be.
He did that to win the votes, took 15 votes, and obviously he was making promises along the way that were very hard. Every card that was played against him, he had dealt to his opponents. But I'm not here, I don't spend a whole lot of time talking about him or the former occupant of the White House. What we talk about is our children, our purpose, what we have to do to win, and to try to do so in a way that is unifying for our country. We just can't be dividing all the time. We have to be unifying for our country, and again, to try to find bipartisanship, transparency, accountability. That's why we go to Congress.
Okay. Also not true. I don't like talking about Donald Trump. What really gets me going is talking about heat vouchers for seniors.
Yeah, that was a bunch of crap. Alex asks, what if the next speaker is worse for the Democrats?
And last question on this. Are you concerned about what happens next? Where do you think it goes from here? Are you concerned about funding the government, funding Ukraine, everything else that comes next? Could it be worse for Democrats now?
What do you mean worse for Democrats?
Meaning...
What just happened?
She started a short circuit.
What do you mean worse for Democrats?
She sounded like a machine where the Wi-Fi went away temporarily.
What do you mean worse for Democrats?
Oh, boy. Once you get into your 80s, you make weird noises. The thing is, most 80-year-olds are never microphoned.
Okay, well, what's Gavin Newsom's excuse for making the weird noises?
He's a strange one.
What do you mean worse for Democrats?
Meaning,
it isn't our responsibility to elect the Speaker of the House.
Right.
So it isn't whatever happens is maybe worse, but it isn't. It's of their own making. People are saying, "Well, why don't the Democrats vote for?" That's not how it works.
Right.
They win, they choose but they have to be able to choose because. Say you thought it was okay to say, well, there should have been 10 Democrats to vote. Do you know how long that would last?
Yeah.
Not 10 days.
Right.
Then they'd say, well, we don't want a speaker who has somebody from the other side, nor would I ever want to be speaker with Republican votes. Well, that's not.
That, I will say, is absolutely true. If for some reason the Democrats did bail out Kevin McCarthy, Matt Gaetz would bring this issue before the floor the next day.
Oh, 100%. Which is why you can't have these rules on the books. It doesn't allow you to govern the country. It forces you to constantly be looking over your shoulder as if sniper fire is coming from the grassy knoll.
That's not what this is. It's not about a person in power. Mm-hmm. It's about the speakership, the second in line to the president, important power as a legislator. And your party has won the election. Your party chooses the speaker.
Now, that was what Nancy Pelosi had to say about Kevin McCarthy and the situation regarding who will be the next speaker of the United States House of Representatives. But because she's in L.A., because she was invited here by Karen Bass, Randy, there was some local L.A. politics talk, too.
That's right. Alex asked what she thought about Karen Bass, in case you forget who Karen Bass is.
If you're feeling down, if you're feeling blue, let's get help for you.
And the love between these two legislators is almost pornographic.
It's ebony and ivory.
And lastly, tonight you're celebrated by Mayor Karen Bass, who I know is a good friend of yours.
Yeah.
What does she mean to you, and what does this honor here tonight mean to you?
Well, for, the honor that Karen Bass is bestowing on me this evening is...
She doesn't know what it is for.
No. One of these phony awards.
It's so much. I'm like, Karen, why are you doing this? Well, because you did this.
You know what? Hold on.
I'm like, Karen, why are you doing this?
I feel like there's a drop there.
I think you may have found gold.
Karen, why are you doing this?
Let me just save that before I forget about it, because Nancy Pelosi, I feel like with 4 years to go in Karen Bass's mayorship, we're going to use this. Pelosi, Karen.
It's not just Karen Bass. It's any Karen.
Karen, why are you doing this? Well, because you did this, that, and that. Karen Bass is a remarkable figure. I know that the people of Los Angeles know that they elected her mayor. But I can tell you from the standpoint of watching her legislate and lead in the Congress of the United States, we're talking about
She sounds like she's starting to drool talking about how great Karen Bass is.
She probably is.
We're talking about a very special person. And so...
That usually isn't a compliment.
No. That usually implies a short bus.
We're talking about a very special person.
She's special.
And so for her to be honoring me in this way just is overwhelming to me. And I accept it on behalf of all of my members who made everything possible. It's not about me, it's about us. But I'm so happy for Los Angeles that they have such a... I tell her that. I say, my father was mayor, my brother was mayor, so I know about the job that mayors do.
Sure. Yeah, but those mayors were a little different.
Yeah, it was also Baltimore.
And I said, most people know who the president...
Maybe we need a mob mayor.
And I said, most people know who the President of the United States is. and who the mayor is of their city or town. The rest of us are sort of in a fog somewhere in between there, but they know who the mayor is, and that they would choose her, and she has built this rapport with them, and then the rapport with the other mayors. Just see the synergy of all of that. This is a leader where you have a vision about where you want to take your city and your knowledge.
We're getting to a bucket full of cliches territory, Nancy.
Are we getting close to Rob Bonta?
Well, let's double check. Here's Bonta. This is the gold standard.
Every type of leadership is about meeting the moment and rising to the occasion, and this is what's required. And so we're stepping up and getting it done.
A leader where you have a vision about where you want to take your city and your...
I mean, we're getting close.
She's getting warm. She's nowhere near Bonta.
Knowledge of the issues that are challenging, whether they're homelessness or hunger, whatever it happens to be, and a strategic thinker about how to get things done, how to bring people together, and then the values of it all. That's Karen Bass. She's a leader.
And that's Nancy Pelosi. She likes cliches.
Karen, why are you doing this?
Hey, Karen. Hey, you know how we had that story this week of because of Karen Bass's executive order on housing, all of a sudden single-family neighborhoods are seeing development plans for 7-story low-income housing units?
Karen, why are you doing this?
Says the people in Westchester.
Karen, why are you doing this?
If you'd like to email the show, you can do so at johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. That's johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. And Randy, you can listen to us not just between the hours of noon and 3, but whatever the heck you want.
That's right. Just go to KABC.com and click on podcasts. Go to the Apple Podcast app, iHeart, Spotify, search for The John Phillips Show, hit subscribe, or even easier than that, download the brand new KABC app. Search KABC AM in the Apple Podcast Store the Apple App Store or the Android Store, and you can download it, and you can listen live anywhere you are. It's easy to do. And then when we're not live, noon to 3, you can listen to podcasts of this show. You can go 24/7 if that's what you want to do. Now, this is what you would sound like if you listened to us for 24 hours straight.
I think that's an accurate description. In the meantime, what do you say we make a couple of listeners very happy?
Well, let's do that right now. 790 KABC welcomes Mariah Carey. Merry Christmas, one and all. The Hollywood Bowl, November 17th. Tickets are on sale now at Ticketmaster.com. But right now, calling number 9 at 1-888-790-5222 gets a pair of tickets to the show. Tickets furnished by Live Nation. Good luck dialing.
We have some breaking news just into KABC. Politico is reporting that Bakersfield Congressman and former Speaker Kevin McCarthy is considering resigning from the House of Representatives before the end of his term. This according to two people familiar with the former Speaker. Although, there's a caveat here, he's made it clear he plans to stay at least through the speakership election next week to try to help the party steady itself after the seismic shakeup. So Kevin McCarthy could be leaving Washington, D.C. very soon.
Yeah, I don't blame him. There's nothing more embarrassing than what happened to this man over the past 8 months. It's time to go.
You know what this is like? And this is the closest thing I can describe it to, which is part of the reason that I'm so surprised that Pelosi is sticking around after being Speaker. Have you ever flown first class before, Randy?
One time, and it was amazing.
Okay. If you've never flown first class and have the opportunity to do it, but don't have the money to buy first class tickets regularly, don't do it. Do not do it. Because the minute you get a taste of first class, and you know every time you step on a plane that you could have that experience, but instead you're shoved in the back like cattle, you will lose your mind. Because let me tell you, first class is all it's cracked up to be and more. You get on that plane, and the flight attendants, instead of barking orders at you and threatening to throw you in prison, the flight attendants know your name. Hello, Mr. Phillips. Welcome to Flight 355, service to Dallas-Fort Worth. Will we be wanting the chicken or the fish today?
When do you want your first scotch?
How about a pre-departure cocktail? Not a drink, Randy. They're classier than that. A pre-departure cocktail. Oh, yes. As a matter of fact, I would like scotch, please, on the rocks. Which type of scotch would you like? Today we're offering Dewar's White Label or Glenlivet. I'll take a double Dewar's on the rocks. Oh, sir. We serve doubles just by default. Then you sit down in your seat. You look at the seat in front of you. What do you see? You see a brand spanking new color TV. And then right below that, you got all the newest magazines. And you got leg room for days. You can put your legs out, extend them all the way. You're still not kicking the seat in front of you. Magazines, leg room. It's like being at Supercuts. Then you take off. And what's the first thing they do? They bring you hot towels just in case you might have perspired a bit walking down the jet bridge. So you can clean yourself up. Then they come back down with the cart, assuming that you've already finished your scotch and you're ready for a second one. After they do that, it's warm nuts, or sometimes it's various cheeses and olives. If it's Hawaii, they have a nut mix that has dried pineapples and coconut. It's delightful. Then they bring you your meal as you're watching your movies. First run. I'm not talking about something that won an Academy Award in the 80s. I'm talking about something that is in the theaters now. Then they bring you your meal. You have your meal. Then they come down with the ice cream bar, where you can have your ice cream, you can have your hot fudge, you can have your caramel, your strawberries, your whipped cream, and your nuts. And then they come back down with a drink cart again in case you want another cocktail. This time they're making sure to let you know that they have Baileys and they have Amaretto and they have all the after-dinner cocktails that you might want. Then they let you go to sleep, and sometimes your chair turns into a bed. You finally get to your destination. You don't even want it to end. Are you kidding? Are we there already? I thought there was another hour or two. Once you know that exists, you can't go back.
You can't go from that to Southwest.
No. Imagine going from that to Spirit. A Spirit flight is slightly less uncomfortable than a kamikaze mission. Slightly. But to go from flying first class all the time to being in the back with steerage, it's humbling. It's humiliating. You can't do that. That's why these credit cards are produced by the devil. Because every once in a while you can save up enough points to go in the front. And then back to the back you go. Get back there. Kevin McCarthy had the cool office with the view of the Washington Memorial. He had all the power in the world. He was second in line to the presidency. You can't go from that to being yelled at town halls in Bakersfield. You just can't. That's a bigger drop from first class to steerage. I wouldn't stick around.
It's time to go back to that Bakersfield sandwich shop, Kevin.
No, he's not going back to that either. He's going to go make $1 gazillion doing something. That's what he's going to do.
Well, every single legislator does have the golden parachute of falling into being a lobbyist.
That is very true. Or in his case, if you're Speaker of the House, I don't even think you have to be a lobbyist. Although I think John Boehner's doing that for the marijuana industry. But people I know who were in Congress who are out, they just sit on corporate boards of directors. That is the best gig on planet Earth.
You don't even have to really work.
No. You just go to some junket at some posh hotel in some exotic place, and you make sure the CEO isn't stealing. You don't even have to go that often. My dad once had a gig doing that. I would go on those junkets with him. I couldn't believe he was being paid for it. But that's what I would be doing if I'm Kevin McCarthy. I wouldn't be the congressman from Bakersfield. That I can tell you.
Now, what happens when he vacates that seat? Because Newsom appoints statewide offices, but will there be an election?
Yes, there'll be a special election. Newsom can appoint senators, not members of the House. So there will be a special election held. And a lot of the members of the state legislature from that area come from the McCarthy political machine. Shannon Grove is the state senator. Vince Fong is the state assemblyman. My guess is whoever replaces him will come from his machine and will likely be one of those two people.
But depending on how long it takes just to do that, that means that instead of a 4-seat majority, it'll be a 3-seat majority. And then when Santos gets indicted, it'll be a 2-seat majority.
That's true. Although the Democrats have their own problems, too, so maybe they may lose one here or there. Although Bob Menendez is in the Senate, so that won't impact this. If you'd like to email the show, you can do so at johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. That's johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. And Randy, you're monitoring the mailbag.
Will writes in at johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. Subject line, why won't Pelosi leave? I think John just answered his own question. Why won't the mummy Pelosi leave already? Why should she when she's been flying high in first class, getting rich at the taxpayers' expense to help destroy America? If I were the devil's disciple, I'd take that deal too.
Karen, why are you doing this?